Toward the beginning of the film, a high schooler named Ayaki awakens close to an attractive kid named Yosuke and 10 different understudies in a new house. It turns out they have been seized by a strange association. As the adolescents attempt to really make sense of their environmental factors, the television in the room turns on and lets them know that they should play a perilous werewolf game. It is a butchering game that allows the player to kill one another. A portion of the youngsters recommend taking off, however they discover that the hijacker has placed on an irremovable collar around every one of their necks, which can choke them to death. Would it be advisable for them they disrupt the guidelines or oppose to play? After everybody grapples with everything going on, the television begins declaring the principles of the game. The understudies will be partitioned into groups, with the first being the werewolves. 3 understudies will be picked as the werewolves, and their responsibility is to polish off the remainder of the gathering. Then, at that point, there are 8 locals. Their one responsibility is to find the werewolves and dispense with them through a democratic framework. In conclusion, there is one fox, who needs to disguise their character no matter what. Toward the finish of the game, assuming the fox makes do, the wide range of various understudies will bite the dust consequently. Consequently, the main way for the fox to win is by acquiring others' trust and remaining out of difficulty. Between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., the residents should remain in their rooms while the 3 werewolves can wander around the house and pick one resident to kill. However, on the off chance that they can't kill somebody, every one of the 3 werewolves will kick the bucket. Among the locals, there are 3 exceptional cards, 1 bouncer, 1 prophet, and 1 medium. The prophet can pick somebody every evening and find, assuming that that individual is a resident or a werewolf. The bouncer can shield 1 individual every night from a werewolf assault, yet not themselves. Every night, before 8 p.m., all players should decide in favor of an individual who they believe is a werewolf. The individual with the largest number of votes should bite the dust. After the individual's passing, the medium can check whether the dead player was a resident or a werewolf. Yet, in the event that the players neglect to cast a ballot before 8 p.m., they will all pass on. In the event that every one of the 3 werewolves are killed, the residents win, yet if the quantity of locals and werewolves become equivalent, the werewolves win. Assuming the fox is as yet alive when the locals eradicate every one of the werewolves. Or on the other hand, when the quantity of locals and werewolves become equivalent, the fox will turn into the sole champ. However, assuming the prophet recognizes the fox, that last option will kick the bucket immediately. The champs of the game will get a monetary reward of $1 million. After the guidelines are finished, everybody is given their cards, and Ayaki is uncovered to be the fox. In the washroom, Ayaki's schoolmate, Ozawa, attempts to converse with her about the game. However, peculiarly, Ayaki is focused on a pulverize she has created on Yosuke, one of the young men in the game. Afterward, the players acquaint themselves with one another. Provided the prophet's ability to recognize the werewolf, Ricky, the most established individual from the gathering, desires the prophet to approach so the bouncer can safeguard him, her. Be that as it may, 4 individuals, including the fox, Ayaki guarantee to be the prophet. Neglecting to arrive at a resolution, the players return to their separate rooms. Soon after, a portion of the players adventure outside and attempt to figure out how to get away. In any case, unfortunately, a board obviously makes reference to that, assuming they cross the taboo lines, the collar on their necks will choke them to death. Subsequently, the understudies hesitantly return inside the house. Ayaki goes to Yuki's room and it's uncovered that the 2 young ladies have played the werewolf game previously. Furthermore, realizing that they can't believe each other in this threatening climate, they lie about their personalities. Around evening time, the players accumulate at the principal lobby to cast a ballot, yet even following 10 minutes of gazing, they don't express a word. In this way, with time expiring, a savvy fellow named Shigemoto ends the quietness and decisions in favor of Kodai, the most chatty and haughty individual from the gathering. He specifies that since they showed up here, Kodai has been acting very bullish, something which a werewolf would do. Overreacted, Kodai gets up from his seat and uncovers that he is really the bouncer. However, nobody trusts him. All things considered, practically every one of them vote in favor of him as the clock hits 8. Unexpectedly, the collar around Kodai's neck fixes and he bites the dust, a grim demise, much sadly. At the point when the clock passes 10 p.m., Yuki branches out of her room looking for a weapon, uncovering that she is one of the werewolves. As she holds up in the kitchen, she is before long joined continuously werewolf, Kentaro. The 2 promptly get to talking, and here, it is uncovered that the 2 of them have likewise played the game previously to go on the chase without help from anyone else. They at first consider killing the fox, Ayaki, yet wind up picking Shigemoto, as he is a shrewd person who can without much of a stretch control others. This became obvious when he coordinated Kodai's passing. Kentaro, asserting that he is apprehensive, hands the blade to Yuki and advises her to get the task finished. She obliges, yet when the werewolves barge inside the room, Shigemoto leaps out of his bed and sets up a battle. Be that as it may, out of nowhere, his collar peculiarly fixes, making him fall on the ground, oblivious. All things considered, Yuki gets a seat and crushes Shigemoto's head, giving him a fast demise. The following day, the excess understudies find Shigemoto's dead body and accumulate to choose their best course of action. Unexpectedly, one of the geeky understudies, Joe, comes running down. He professes to be the prophet, and continues to tell the job he found the previous evening. Be that as it may, the senior most part, Ricky, advises him to pause and asks all oneself announced Prophets, Ayaki, Joe and Kentaro, to share their data at precisely the same opportunity to check whether there are any logical inconsistencies that would assist with figuring out who may lie. Ayaki claims that her crush Yosuke is a resident while the werewolf Kentaro focuses at a quiet young lady. Marion claims that she is a resident. However, going against the norm, the geek, Joe, makes sense of that he checked Shigemoto's character last night and figured out that he was the fox. He guarantees that, as the standard states, in the event that a prophet finds the job of the fox, whoever has the fox card will pass on. Also, since Shigemoto passed on yesterday, it shows that Joe is coming clean and that he is the genuine prophet. Notwithstanding, no one accepts him, and Ricky counter-inquiries by posing to that, assuming Shigemoto was killed by the prophet. Then who did the werewolves go after the previous evening? This surprises Joe, and he rapidly switches up the conversation by blaming the other two prophets of being werewolves. Unfortunately, this main misfires on him, as the craftiness Kentaro blames him for evolving characters, since he is one of the werewolves. That evening, the second democratic meeting starts, and the quiet young lady, Miri, represents the first time. She recommends that they shouldn't cast a ballot to execute any of oneself declared prophets yet, on the grounds that they don't have the foggiest idea who's coming clean, and in the event that they make another expectation, the gathering could possibly figure out who's a werewolf. It appears to be legit. However, the young lady has an ulterior intention. Since one self-broadcasted prophets guaranteed that she and Yosuke are the two townspeople, they ought to have resistance from the Democratic this evening. The players concur with her rationale and choose to find another person to decide on. Ayaki utilizes this chance to get payback against Anna, a young lady who was seen being a tease with her crush, Yosuke. Ayaki lets everybody know that she's dubious of Anna here, since she's hushed up for the entire game. This scares Anna, and she makes sense of that she's just hushing up on the grounds that she's difficult to figure out the game. Yosuke additionally comes to her safeguard, saying he ought to likewise be thought for being tranquil. However, Ayaki brings up she's now uncovered him as a resident. Unfortunately, with time expiring, every one of the understudies turn on Anna, making her kick the bucket and excruciating passing. At 12 p.m., the werewolves get together in the kitchen once more. Yuki and Kentaro are concerned that the third werewolf actually hasn't appeared, and they wonder, assuming Anna was the other wolf. The two wolves then, at that point, choose to make Ricky their next target. They pick him as he is the most shrewd among everybody, and has begun irritating up the other understudies lately. Before long, the werewolves break into his entryway, provoking the terrified Ricky to escape out of his window. Tragically, he crosses the illegal line, in light of which his collar actuates and quickly kills him. The werewolves are going to go to their rooms when Yuki concocts a plan to find the third wolf. She recommends testing the locks of each and every room, as just the werewolves' entryways open around evening time. She checks every one of the entryways and thinks that they are locked. Kentaro checks the last entryway and thinks that it is open, yet he misleads Yuki that it is locked, guaranteeing that the third wolf has as of now kicked the bucket. The following day, the understudies find Ricky's carcass, and they assemble around to talk about their next move. There, Kentaro lets everybody know that the previous evening, as the prophet, he found that Ayaka is the werewolf. This gets Ayaka unsuspecting. She scrambles to safeguard herself. At the point when Kentaro keeps on squeezing her for an admission, she changes her story and cases that she was really the medium from the beginning. She makes sense of that. She figured the bouncer wouldn't safeguard the medium, so she imagined to be the prophet to make do. Notwithstanding, even Ayaka's crush has one or two serious doubts of her, and he figures the genuine medium may have passed on as of now. However, shockingly, the Geek Joe emphatically accepts that with 8 players left, the medium is still bound to be alive. He then proceeds to guarantee that as the prophet he found that Yuki is the genuine werewolf, causing her a deep sense of shock. Yuki demands she's blameless and rapidly moves the allegation towards Ayaka. With no ideal methodology to draw out the werewolves, the gathering consents to an arrangement. That evening, they will attach up every one of the suspects to their bed and lock them in their rooms until morning. Assuming somebody actually kicks the bucket, it really intends that there's another werewolf. Kentaro frenzies, and he contends that it's anything but smart in light of the fact that the townspeople will not have the option to guard themselves against the wolves. Notwithstanding, his contentions make him look blameworthy, and the suspects are compelled to acknowledge the bargain. Sooner or later, at the Democratic meeting, Kentaro attempts to persuade everybody that the genuine medium is dead and Ayaka is the werewolf. Yosuke concurs with him, as Ayaka has proactively lied about being the prophet. Before long, things gain out of influence, and Joe defies Kentaro for blaming him for being a fake prophet. With everybody occupied, 8 o'clock rolls in and everybody's collar begins to fix around their necks, making them gradually choke. Left with no decision, they all rapidly vote, choosing the most disagreeable player at the second, Kentaro. Everybody's collar at long last relaxes, with the exception of Kentaro, who bites the dust a difficult passing. That evening, Yuki, Ayaka and her companion Ozawa are restricted in their separate beds. Presently, with Kentaro out of the picture, Yuki needs to assume responsibility and kill somebody, or something bad might happen. All the werewolves will consequently cease to exist. As she battles to loosen herself, she finds a blade under her pad left by the third wolf, who clearly is as yet alive. She utilizes it to free herself and Tempests into Ozawa's room. Yuki searches for any weapons in her room, and when she doesn't view as any, she turns out to be certain that Ozawa is only a resident. In any case, since the unfortunate young lady definitely knows excessively, she must be quieted. Yuki ruthlessly polishes her off, however all the while, winds up getting an enormous cut on her face. Terrified, she promptly goes to the washroom to recover. As she is washing the blood off her face, she understands that different players will unquestionably figure out that she is the wolf in view of her injury. Out of nowhere, somebody strolls in. It's the third werewolf. The following morning, Ayaka and the others discover that Ozawa lost her life, leaving just 6 individuals. Presently, Yuki likewise shows up and everybody sees the gigantic cut on her cheek. Left with no decision, she concedes that she's a werewolf. Nonetheless, to save herself, she additionally claims to be the last werewolf and that the fox is as yet alive. Presently, assuming different members choose to remove her, the fox will naturally win, coming about in everybody's demises. By and by, Joe claims that he killed the fox Shigemoto utilizing his profit capacities. In any case, Yuki realizes that he is lying, since she was the person who killed Shigemoto. Sometime thereafter, Yuki faces Ayaka and blames her for being a fox. With no chance to get out of the circumstance, Ayaka at last concedes that she lied about being a medium. Also, as the two young ladies are examining, Miri appears, uncovering that she's the third werewolf. She uncovers that she had been concealing this time on the guidance of Kentaro. It just so happens, even Miri has played this game before alongside Kentaro and Yosuke. She then, at that point, certainly asserts that Yosuke will agree with her position when she lets him know that Ayaka is the fox. Presently, with the two werewolves and Yosuke casting a ballot against her, Ayaka has positively zero chance of making do. In spite of the chances against her, she goes to the rooftop to persuade her crush, Yosuke. She inquires as to whether there's anybody in this game that he really focuses on. Yosuke answers that Miri is a dear companion of his, totally unmindful of the way that she is one of the wolves. Yet again Ayaka asks assuming he would trust her, assuming she lets him know that Miri is the wolf. To which Yosuke says no. Hearing this, Ayaka understands there's no way to adjust his perspective and leaves with her heart broken. At the point when she gets once again to the structure, she is astounded to see Yuki sitting tight for her. Furthermore, in a stunning new development, Yuki uncovers that she believes Ayaka should dominate the match. She says that she can't keep living in the wake of butchering such countless blameless companions. In this game, Ayaka is still left in dismay, yet regardless, she guarantees that she won't ever surrender. That evening, everybody assembles for the last vote. Ayaka keeps on professing to be the medium and blames a young lady named Siki for being the fox on the grounds that Joe is accepted to be the prophet and Yosuke is accepted to be a resident. The gathering then makes their last choice. 2 individuals vote in favor of Ayaka. 1 decisions in favor of Yuki and 3 individuals vote in favor of Siki, the resident. It turns out Yuki remained by her words and decided in favor of Siki rather than Ayaka, which saved the last's life. Presently, with Siki dead, the quantity of residents and foxes are equivalent at 2 each. According to the standards, the werewolves ought to be triumphant, yet since the fox is as yet alive, Ayaka wins it. Abruptly, the television turns on, letting them know that the fox has made do and has won. What's more, in a matter of seconds, everybody's collars begin to fix. Ayaka can essentially look as her companions kick the bucket just before her eyes. At last, following quite a while of dread, she has dominated the match, and furthermore $1 million. The film closes as Ayaka takes her collar off and consumes her fox card.